Hogstye.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Hogstye. It is Conference Championship Week. Maybe the last Conference Championship Week where Conference Championship games are ever played at home stadiums. We don't know. Hopefully, I'm wrong about. Well,
where is that coming from?
Oh, there's a big conspiracy theory, Steve. The reason they were trying to do the neutral site game is they want to get rid of or make that permanent eventually.
Does everybody understand the reason they contemplated the neutral site game was because Cincinnati and Buffalo didn't play a 17th game?
No, we know that.
Oh, there's another conspiracy behind that too, that Damar Hamlin actually died and has been an impersonator at the stadium and everything. That's not really
Y'all
Damar
need to get off social media, truly. Okay, both of you.
This is like the NFL's equivalent of QAnon.
My God, it's like Oliver Stone is producing Twitter rumors now.
It's a gift that keeps on giving on Twitter, though. It's great. It's great humor.
I can't. This is why I don't do Twitter anymore.
We laugh at it, not with it, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. You take it too serious. Got to have fun with it.
I just no.
Well, so speaking of Damar Hamlin, Bills are out. You know, fun game to watch.
That game. Did y'all notice that?
What?
Damar Hamlin was at that game.
Oh yeah. He was in the press box, or not press box, owner's box, right? Yeah. And good for him for being able to get out there already.
Absolutely. And begs the question whether he's going to play again. Because the thing about Damar Hamlin is he's only in the second year of his rookie contract, and he was like a mid-round pick or something. He's not set for life monetarily.
No.
He's set for right now. So I mean, he's going to have to get a job if he doesn't.
Right.
If he doesn't play football again.
Yeah, he had 2 years of making some decent money, but nothing earth-shattering.
Nothing's going to set him up for life.
No. You know what it does, Steve? It means he can maybe buy like a partial stake in a used car dealership or something. That's about where he might be.
Well, I did a lease for a minor league. I did a lease one time for a minor league baseball player who is well known, but I can't say. For a restaurant, he was a part owner in a restaurant that was a chain out of California, and they were putting one in Houston, and his role was just to get the restaurant open. That was it. And then he had no stake in it all, but he owned whatever, some 40% or whatever of it. He was just a minor league player, but he had signed a big minor league contract. He had a bunch of money sitting around and nothing to do, so he
which is rare in baseball minor leagues, by the way, right?
Well, he was a first round pick, so he had money.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, he was a big name.
Got it. All right, well, we're not here to talk about that, but let's talk a little bit about those last week's games. I don't think we want to focus on them because only one was a good game, if we're being honest.
Yeah. I mean, to watch? Yeah.
The Eagles blew out the Giants, boring. The Bills Cincinnati game was at least fun because of the weather. That always makes for somewhat of an interesting game, but not really competitive at all, right?
Neither one of them were overly competitive, to be honest.
The only competitive one was the 49ers beating the Cowboys.
Yeah.
That was the only good game, and luckily it was the last one. We ended on a good note.
I guess start with Bengals Bills real quick. I don't know what happened to the Bills. That was the prediction I totally blew.
Oh, I think a lot of people are there with you.
Yeah, and I didn't predict the blowout of Giants. I predicted the Giants lost, but not that blowout. But Bengals Bills really surprised me, especially being in Buffalo, and they just got manhandled from day one. Moment one, the game was over in the first quarter. It felt like
It really did. I was surprised by that too.
Yeah.
You would have thought with the Hamlin thing and the weather, it was all in their favor. The one thing that, and call me old-fashioned, the Bills built their team to be like an air-it-out, pass-heavy team, and you play in Buffalo. You're in a run-the-ball city with those bad weather games. And
it's like when you have Stephon Diggs, who's probably the best receiver in football, realistically.
Probably.
Certainly in top three. I mean, you're going to have to use him. And by the way, I mean, I think I was talking to a colleague about this today. I think Stephon Diggs makes Josh Allen look a lot better than he really is.
Oh, absolutely. I think everyone agrees with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Romo brought up a pretty good point in that kind of a weather where Burrow outplayed Allen was, in that kind of weather, you can't necessarily lead the receivers and throw them open, as they say. Mm-hmm. It's more or less, the receiver's going to be here. You place the ball right there. You basically kind of time those to intersect at the right time because of that kind of weather. And Burrow was doing that masterfully, and Allen was just all over the place. So that was a pretty big.
To the surprise of no one, if you watched Josh Allen for any length of time.
Well, yeah, he's not the best passer in the world.
No, he's just he's athletic and all that. I was just very surprised. I really was very surprised at that game. So that one, I think, was a surprise.
Yeah, Kansas City, not a surprise, right? Like that, it was a decent game for the first half, but that was about it.
Yeah, because we all saw Chad Henne coming in and engineering a 98-yard touchdown drive.
Well,
we all saw that coming.
At that point, then it was
that was fun.
It was over.
But
yes, it was.
We'll get back to Patrick Mahomes because he had a high ankle sprain, which is obviously going to play into things here. Giants Eagles. Was anybody surprised at Giants Eagles? I was surprised that the Giants. I predicted a loss, but I was surprised at the blowout. I really thought that they would play hard and do well. I mean, they might have played hard, but do well. I did not expect that.
I'll be honest. At halftime, I was like, well, this is over already, and I turned it off because I don't need to see the Eagles and Nick Sirianni like gloating and all that nonsense either.
Oh yeah, at halftime, I came down to the basement and played my PS5. So I was like, I'm done with that game.
Playing anything good?
Well, right now I'm in the middle of No Man's Sky right now.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Good time suck game.
I'll take your word for it.
Let's see. Yeah, Giants Eagles kind of just blah. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the Chiefs very much? I mean, you said you want to talk about the Patrick Mahomes thing real quick.
Well, I mean, this kind of flows into the conference championship game, because we have the Chiefs and the Bengals in the AFC championship game, and at first glance, one would think if you were a newcomer here, you would think, Chiefs probably have the advantage in this game. It's the Chiefs. It's the future Hall of Fame quarterback and Mahomes. They're 14-3. They're 7-1 at home. Then you start to think about it and you say, okay, the Bengals were in the Super Bowl last year. They beat the Chiefs this year 6 or so weeks ago, and Patrick Mahomes has a high ankle sprain.
Right.
That is
now
not.
He was practicing a little. So.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's not a normal ankle sprain. That's a ankle sprain. That's a very serious. Most people don't play one week after a high ankle sprain, and so it's there's a lot of sort of limiting factors here. And the Chiefs went into Buffalo, and as we just discussed, beat the Bills down pretty handily. So I think the Chiefs' chances really do hinge a lot, in no small part, on how healthy Patrick Mahomes is. Can he move? I mean, he's probably going to be out there come hell or high water, I would guess, but is he himself?
I mean, the answer is going to be no, he's not going to be himself. We saw when he came back into that game, he was clearly not the same player. Like he was limping quite a lot. It might not be that bad, but he's not going to be able to run around.
It affects his footwork. It affects his ability to throw. So it's important.
And even for all the conjecture they made on the broadcast, well, he's a strong-armed quarterback. He doesn't need good foot. No, every quarterback needs good footwork. Like you can't play a whole game throwing off of one foot and like jumping in the air. That's not going to work out. So.
I agree.
Yeah. I go back to, I want to say it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. He had a injury with the foot ankle region, whatever it was. I forget exactly what the injury was. Mm-hmm. And it lasted for a good 3 weeks, 3-4 weeks. It affected his plant foot. It affected his mobility and everything. But the one thing that Mahomes does probably better than anyone else is how he throws accurate off platform. And that's one thing he does exceptionally well. And that's the one thing I got in a debate with somebody at work because they think Burrow is a much better quarterback than Mahomes. I'm like, and that's a whole another conversation. But it's just that what Mahomes can do when he throws sidearm, he's throwing it accurately to wherever he wants. When he's throwing across his body, he's throwing it accurately wherever he wants. He's one of the few quarterbacks I've ever seen he could throw off platform and be almost as effective as he was if he was fully in platform, I guess you would say, for lack of a better phrase there. But
I think that's fair, but I think I think that's a astute observation, and I think you're right. But the fact remains that he's not going to be 100% Patrick Mahomes.
Correct.
With a high ankle sprain, no matter what. And so
going against a very good defense and another great young quarterback. So yeah, you're right. There's a lot of issues for Kansas City to get over on that one. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, when I pulled the line Tuesday night, it was Chiefs minus 1.5.
Yeah.
Now understand that Vegas usually gives the home team 3. Mm-hmm. So what they're saying is very, very close game. Cincinnati may win the game. That's sort of what Vegas is saying, because the 1.5 points is the spread. I don't know. I've been going back and forth all week, about who I think is going to win this game. But at the end of the day, I think that Mahomes' ankle is going to be the deciding factor in here. I don't think they're going to be themselves, and I think it'll be a fairly I said 28-24 Bengals to answer the question.
Okay.
I don't know if the Chiefs are going to be able to overcome all this. And Cincinnati's playing very well, to their credit, on top of that.
Right.
Well, look, these are two very good teams. I mean, I actually think of these two matchups, this is the closer matchup, in my mind at least. So, I mean... If Mahomes isn't 100%, though, I gotta go Bengals. Like you, Steve, like it's gonna be close, like maybe a 3-point difference. So 31-28, that kind of thing. I could see that, but yeah, this is not like Mahomes. If he's 100%, they win. Though I will say that if he's healthy, I think they would overtake him.
Myself, you guys make all great points. I agree with everything you're saying, but right now, what I get stuck on is Mahomes is 0-3 against Cincinnati, a barrel run team right now, and one of the losses in the AFC Championship game last year. I think you're going to see a lot of Kelce, as you always do. I'm going to see a lot more of these running backs, especially Peccacello, involved in this passing game. And I think Mahomes finds a way to get this game pulled out. I don't think he's going to allow this team to beat him 4 times in a row. I think it's going to be one of them like 34-31. KC just makes it, and off the back of that running game, the short passing game and everything. I think they find a way of pulling this game out.
I mean, for those who aren't aware, Isaiah Pacheco, 830 yards regular season average, 4.9 yards per carry. And they do miss the spousal, the domestic violence committer, in Tyreek Hill. But Pacheco makes up for some of that because
it's fun. It's funny you say that, because when there was somebody that came, I saw that did a comparison of Mahomes from this year to last year, and his numbers are pretty much the same, if not better in certain aspects. He's actually distributing the ball amongst all the receivers in a more balanced way. He's actually even a little more difficult to defend because of that, because it's not, okay, take away Tyreek Hill, and now we got Kelce. Now you have I can't name.
It's funny you say that, because I have it all in front of me, and you're right in that it is more just an even distribution. Kelce, 1,300 yards, 110 catches, the number one by far. But then you get down to Juju Smith-Schuster, 78 catches, 930 yards. You got Marquez Valdes-Scantling, 42 catches, 687 yards. And then there's a slew of receivers who've all got about 300 yards, 20-ish catches. And so he has spread the ball around. There's no doubt Kelce's the number one, for sure. But they do have a bunch of other guys, and I think you make a good point. that he spread the ball around, spreading the ball around more than he did for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. And he has to. I mean, when you don't have one superstar wide out, like that's what you do. Having Kelsey, I'm sure if they didn't have Kelsey, all those numbers would be a serious drop off.
Oh, sure.
Because teams are spending so much time focusing on him too.
Right.
Yeah. But
okay, so I want to go over some Cincinnati numbers here real quick since we're talking about it. Sure. So, okay, so you turn the window because now I have somebody talking in my ear here. Okay, good. Sorry about that. Okay, so Joe Mixon is the leading rusher at 814 yards, but he's not even averaging 4 yards a carry, meaning he's not efficient. Our old friend Samaje Perine is the principal backup, 4.1 yards per carry. They're not a great running team, and no. Joe Burrow's run a little bit, 75 carries, but he's not really a runner. So T. Higgins, they're more limited offense, I would say. T. Higgins is the number one receiver, 74 catches, over 1,000 yards. Then you got Tyler Boyd next, 58 catches, 762 yards. There's less. The offense is less versatile, I would say, than is that of Kansas City.
Well, don't forget Jamar Chase. He missed several games. He missed several games this year due to injury.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Games. I totally overlooked him. 1,000 yards, 87 touchdowns. Yeah, thank you. I knew I was missing somebody, but and he's a legit talent. But I don't think that changes my point much, which is to say that Cincinnati's a less versatile offense. But I just think in this case, because of the limitations with Mahomes, I don't think Kansas City will be functioning at peak efficiency.
By the way, after Samaje Perine was out of DC, who would have thought he would have caught on anywhere, much less this long?
I thought he'd be out of the NFL.
Yeah, I thought he would be in some weird minor league or playing rugby or something. Yeah.
Or playing the USFL.
Yeah. Or the Mexican League with Chad Ochocinco. Yeah.
There's a Mexican league?
Yeah, you didn't remember that? There was a Mexican football league that Chad Ochocinco went to play for.
I thought that was a joke. He actually did that?
Yeah. Yeah, he was like a star player because, I think he was the only guy who actually was a player. Not there to drink beer. Yeah.
Alex, did you give a prediction here for this game?
We all gave predictions.
Well, Dave said, I know what Dave said. What was your prediction?
31-28 for Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the NFC game here real quick, too, because obviously this is the one we're going to care about. Steve, you're in a tough spot because you hate both these teams, I think, pretty evenly, I assume. You hate Philly fans, and you have an axe to grind against Trent Williams still.
I do have an axe to grind against Trent Williams. So I'm taking my fandom out of it. And fandom, even though my Washington fandom has waned, I still don't like either of these franchises or their fans and all that. And, Dave's the only decent person in the city of Philadelphia. I'm Dave's family, too. Let's throw them in there. But
Sure.
The Dave Earl household's the only one that shouldn't be blown up. The
city will do it themselves. They'll
That's true.
Yeah.
And Trent Williams,
we're working on it.
I just think Trent Williams acted like a giant baby, and and he somehow fell into what he wanted. I can't root for Trent Williams. But from a football standpoint, this is a very good game, and this is the two teams that should have been in the NFC conference title game, I think.
Yeah.
But I think the deciding factor here will be that Brock Purdy showed, I thought, a little bit of inexperience last week. Humanity. There you go. Last week. And whereas Jalen Hurts has come along and he's outstanding. And I think the Eagles are a tiny bit better, more productive and more put together offense than are the 49ers. Understanding that the 49ers have an outstanding defense, but I think at the end of the day, the Eagles are just a little bit better. And the Niners have to come all the way, across 4 time zones is the other thing. That may be a minor factor. So I think Washington fans may not want to hear this, but I think that the Eagles are going to pull this out because, again, I just think they're a tiny bit better team than are the 49ers. Low scoring game though.
But right now, I got two names for you.
Okay.
Greenlaw and Warner. Those two are going to be the Achilles heel in this Eagles offense. And I say that because of any linebackers league, especially Warner, that can contain Jalen Hurts and prevent him from running all over the field. It's either one of those two. And you saw against the Cowboys that Warner can very much drop right back in coverage. He went step for step with CeeDee Lamb down the center of the field when he ran a seam route, and CeeDee Lamb was not open. Dak tried to force it, but there was nothing there. I've never even seen Warner even do that. That blew my mind. I mean, Warner is an absolute cheat code in the NFL. It's ridiculous what he can do. And Greenlaw, who could start for anybody. I mean, he looks like he looks like an average player next to him, and he's a fantastic linebacker himself. And then, oh, by the way, you got Nick Bosa coming off the end.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah. And it's San Francisco has the key ingredients for that Eagle offense, which is contain Hurts and prevent him from running all over you. You do that, and you force him to just simply throw the ball all over the field, you have a really good shot on winning that game. That's why I think, even though I had the Eagles picked to represent in the Super Bowl, it's just a gut feel. I just think the 49ers are going to want to pull this out, like something like a 19-16 game.
It's going to be a tough one. And you guys keep saying low scoring, and I understand why. Both these teams have very good defenses, but I also think both these teams probably have the most weapons. Not looking at the quarterback, but these quarterbacks have the most weapons to play with of any quarterbacks in the NFC.
Absolutely.
Both have at least 3 good receiving targets. I'm going to give the edge to the 49ers because I think McCaffrey is just a much better running back than anything the Eagles have.
Mm-hmm.
But these are two very tough, even when you have great defenses, they're two very tough teams to defend against.
Right.
It's really just going to come down to how good can Brock Purdy play and how long can he keep up playing way above his, draft status, experience status, whatever you want to call it. One thing to remember, no quarterback has ever made the Super Bowl as a rookie. It just hasn't happened.
Well, that's
There's
because
you put QBs, but never rookies.
I mean, you put these rookie quarterbacks in tough situations, and it gets harder and harder and harder.
Exactly.
And I mean, good defenses. Now there's some film. There's several weeks of film on Brock Purdy that there wasn't before. And I think Purdy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I like him, and he's made the most of his opportunity. But he's also on a team that's tailor made for a quarterback like this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's all very true. And maybe he'll be the first for all we know. Maybe the first quarterback to ever make the Super Bowl as a rookie is also the last guy picked in the draft somehow.
I mean, there's got to be one at some point, I suppose. There's no reason why it can't be Brock Purdy.
No. It's just because it's never happened doesn't mean it never will happen, kind of thing. But right. It's just something to keep in mind. But it is going to be a fun game to watch to see how Kyle Shanahan, he's a run guy. I think that also works in his favor because that means he can keep the Eagles' offense off the field better.
Yeah.
And the Eagles' run defense isn't great either.
Yeah. No, it's not. That's their Achilles heel for sure.
Yeah.
That is definitely their Achilles heel. I do. So in terms of run defense, since you mentioned it,
yeah, Steve's gonna have to pull up some numbers.
Oh, of course you guys know me.
We can't get through one of these without at least a few numbers.
But don't you want some statistical evidence to back up the point?
Of course.
I mean, otherwise,
absolutely.
I thought we just do opinion. We don't do evidence.
They've given up 4.6 yards per carry this past year in the regular season. It's 24th in the NFL. That's not good. They are also 16th in rushing yards, which is because people are passing on them more a little bit because they're behind. But they're just not a good run defense, and that is very, very true. And the 49ers, 7th in the NFL rushing yards, 4.7 yards per attempt. And so if I definitely think if San Francisco has a path to win, it's that. And I think it's very, very close. The line, by the way, is another close one. It's also 1.5 points Eagles in Philadelphia. So again, that's sort of telling you that they think San Francisco has a good chance of winning. That's what those odds should say to you. In terms of my rooting interest, I know you guys are obviously rooting for San Francisco. For your rooting interest, I would assume. For me, it's tough, man. It's a real Sophie's choice with this, because I don't really like either one. I don't know who to root for. So I don't know. I'll be rooting for the Bengals, I guess.
Rooting for the Bengals no matter what. Yeah, I'm actually, in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of where I'm at with these 4 teams. Is like, if anyone's got to win it, let the team that's never won it win it.
I'm kind of tired of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs anyway.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm never tired of Patrick Mahomes.
I know you have a man crush on him.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
You could get their jersey. It looks just like an old Redskins jersey.
That's true.
Why don't you know what? You could really confuse people. Just buy a Washington jersey and put Mahomes on the back of it.
Oh, who wears number 15 right now for the Commanders or
Washington?
Yeah,
Don't make me
Washington.
say the C word.
That's a great question.
Do we
Give me a
even
chance
have
to open my
15?
giant spreadsheet. I didn't realize I would have to produce this. but
No,
I have
no.
all those.
Uh,
I of course have all the jersey numbers because I have all this data in this massive sheet.
Sure. I mean, who wouldn't? What
Everybody
normal sane
but
person?
me. Nobody but
I got
me.
it first. Dax Milne.
Dax Milne, yeah.
Yep, there we are. You could probably get a very cheap Dax Milne jersey because he's probably going to be cut anyway.
Well, can't you order your
Special order one? Yeah, you could do that.
I
but
think
the
it would be
problem is-
hilarious, Dave. I really do. Put Mahomes on the back of it. That'd be really funny.
The problem is, Steve, they charge you extra for the custom order, even if it's a player on the team.
Yeah,
So, like, when I got my Trust
what's
Wade
important,
jersey, it was an
money or
extra
the
$10.
joke? Okay,
the joke.
the joke
I
is
agree.
most important.
Yes, I get it. Yes,
Go to one of those. And don't do this. Don't go to one of those Chinese knockoff sites that sells them for $30.
No, I mean you got to do it right. Or get like one that says like CD Lamb or something on it. Just some like totally off the wall. That would be really funny.
If you're gonna get a custom one, you could probably just get one that says Patrick Mahomes anyway, and just be a Redskins jersey with his name on it.
I know it'd be the greatest joke. It'd be a funny joke. It'd be worthwhile. I'll chip in if you want to do it. I'll help. I'll chip in.
Yeah.
How much can it cost?
Well, if Dave was going to go to that Eagles rally, it's a shame I gave it to Goodwill. I had a McNabb Redskins shirt.
I have a McNabb Redskins jersey.
There you go. So if you have,
get a Jalen Hurts Washington jersey. That would be.
Dave, I think we found out what you're going to wear to that Eagles rally thing that you're being forced to go to.
Of course. On the other hand, though, the joke would be on you because how'd that work out?
Yeah, not
sure. But it's a double pun in a way, yes.
Well, since that time, the Eagles have moved on and won a Super Bowl.
Right.
Washington has not.
And on the verge of doing it again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so to summarize, I have predicted a Bengals-Eagles Super Bowl. Okay. Dave, you have predicted what?
Kansas City, San Francisco.
Right. And Alex?
I'm going with my heart more than anything, so I'm going to go San Francisco in that game and say Bengals, San Francisco, with Bengals winning. I think right now at least. If something crazy happens, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll get to Super Bowl predictions, when it comes.
Right. All right, why don't we move on? There was some news that happened in Washington related to the team. So the team's chief of marketing operations has decided to leave. Will Misselbrook or yeah, I think that's how. Yeah, Misselbrook. He quit. He says he's found another job. So the thing about him is, supposedly he was really the guy doing a lot of the work for the rebrand from Washington
So this
football
is his
team to
fault.
Commanders. Oh yeah, yeah. So he's jumped ship, which is
Tragedy
probably
strikes.
appropriate considering how poorly the rebrand went. I'm sure he failed upwards like all these types of people do, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of him before. Alex brought this up today. I mean, I say good riddance to the dude. Hope it works out for you, whatever. But he certainly, to the extent he's responsible for all this, yeah, I don't appreciate his service. But so the real question would be, what does this mean to the team? It may mean absolutely nothing. Maybe he did get a better job. Who knows? I mean, the conspiracy theorists out there are going to say, "Oh, this is harbinger of things to come," and the first move, and the front office is going to leave, and all that. If Dan Snyder really does sell the team, the front office is going to go.
Yeah,
so
they're
maybe
all gonna get fired is what's going to happen.
Yeah, this guy may be kind of reading the tea leaves a little bit and going, listen, I gotta, get out while the getting's good. Somebody came to him with an offer, jump. That might be what it is.
If I were in this front office, it would be my instinct too to be looking for headhunting jobs and all that. Yeah, or looking for headhunters.
Well, there's also a limited subset of people who do sports marketing in particular.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, and I don't know if he went to another. I assume it was another sports marketing. They didn't really say anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
well,
Steve,
maybe
to give you context.
Maybe we're. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this is the guy who, when they did the rebrand launch, said we didn't want to go with an animal name or something like that because we want to be a global brand and get into the food space and the fashion space and all that kind of nonsense.
We will name the team after a mid-grade naval officer.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Well, he said, an animal is too limiting. And to that, my point is, what are the biggest brands in the world? Nike is named after a freaking Greek god. Amazon is named after a river. Google's a number. Those are three of the biggest brands. Oh, an apple. That's a fruit. It doesn't matter what you name yourself after if you make a great product.
McDonald's was a guy.
It wasn't even the guy. The guy bought the name from two other guys.
I know, but eventually, yeah, I know. But McDonald's is like a name.
Right. He bought it from, his name was Ray Kroc.
Michael Dell was Dell Computers.
Right. Exactly.
The name
doesn't
just has
matter
to be
what
catchy.
You name yourself after.
The name just has to be catchy. This is just Pete Head, this idiot being politically correct is all it was, more than anything.
Well, he's one of these new age marketing.
We gotta not offend a single soul. And oh my God, we're gonna find the most boring, bland, meaningless possible name so we can keep every little shining face and person happy on the face of the earth. And God help us.
We don't know what we want to do with the uniform. So we'll have one old fashioned looking retro uniform. We'll do one super modern uniform, and then one will throw every little fan idea into it. The more
I think about it, you know what? This guy should have gone a long time ago. If this guy is, you're getting me going now. If this guy is in large part responsible for ruining my former team.
Yeah, he is. He sucks.
What's his name? Misselbrook. Screw this guy. I hope it doesn't work out for him.
Swinging a Misselbrook.
Yeah, I hope he's flipping burgers at Burger King somewhere. That's what I hope for this guy. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Will.
I'll say Denny's. I'll let him flip burgers at a Denny's.
No, screw Denny's. He's going to make more at Denny's than he would at Burger King. He's got to go to Burger King.
Do you think they make more at Denny's? I don't know.
Denny's got to be a better gig because they're a real cook back there. They're a legitimate fry cook at Denny's. Burger King, you're just a high school junior trying to
you're
put
throwing
gas
it in the microwave.
Yeah.
Davis
like sitting there like, this guy's an idiot.
Well, no, I'd say you guys just kind of covered every point. I'm just thinking after
Dave, I know how to
everything
get Steve a little riled up with this stuff.
Yeah, it took me a while to wake up to this, but now that I'm seeing it, Will Misselbrook, you should have let me frog march you out of the office.
I'm just, after all this, I'm just wondering maybe we'll be lucky enough that maybe all the patents and copyrights and everything for the Commanders, he somehow did it personally, and all that has to go with him. And we'll just be the football team for a little bit.
You guys want to hear a funny sports marketing story I haven't said on the air yet?
Go for it.
Okay.
Oh, wait, you won't get in trouble for it.
I just won't say any names.
All right.
So I was working on a sponsorship agreement for an NFL team, a major major international name. And I was at this NFL.
All NFL teams are. So, but you're working.
No. The brand that we were doing it with was a major international brand.
Sure.
And so I was sitting in this. I spent a whole week at this NFL team's facility, and the marketing guy is in all these meetings, and the attorneys for the other in-house attorneys for the other side are there, and this guy on the other side is just droning on and on and on and on. And this agreement's like 100 pages long, and he's going over every comma and all this stuff. And the marketing guy just couldn't stand it anymore. So I saw him. He just kind of slid out of the room. He's kind of like, I'll be back. And he came in and he had the cheerleader calendar with him, a hard copy of it. And he just really, really subtly put it in front of this opposing counsel who was droning on and on, boring everybody to tears. And he had opened it to a particularly hot picture of somebody, one of the cheerleaders, and he just kind of slid it in there. And this totally threw the guy off his game. He lost his place, he kind of, and then his boss, when that happened, the boss woke up and then pulled the guy in the hallway and told him, I found out later, you got to stop. We got to make more progress with this. So the marketing guy was smart enough to know that a hot woman, because it was all guy. There was actually one woman in the room that was on our side. The marketing guy was smart enough to know this calendar is going to throw off his whole negotiation, and he was right.
That's fantastic.
It was great. It was really awesome.
That's the kind of thing Dan Snyder does, but that's fantastic.
It wasn't anything inappropriate. It was the calendar that team sells to customers. It wasn't like nude pictures or anything like creepy like Dan would do. It was just like a woman in a bikini, and it threw the guy off because attorneys are a bit maladjusted, so they're not used to seeing stuff like this.
No, they're used to seeing female attorneys who are not cheerleaders.
True. So there's your funny story of the day.
That's a good, and if you're ever in a negotiating table, bring a cheerleader calendar.
See, I don't know how well that would work anywhere but an NFL office, though. Okay, you can't do that if you're like negotiating with
when
Marriott.
I'm negotiating my next raise, I shouldn't bring a cheerleader calendar.
No, or even me, like I can't do that on a daily basis with, it was because it was an NFL, it kind of fit the vibe.
Well, hey, when you're negotiating the next deal for, a Whataburger being built in some strip mall, find the workers of Whataburger calendar.
I'll just call that guy. I still have his contact info. I'll just call him and tell him to show up. Or maybe we'll do
just for the story.
We'll do a hot Whataburger employee catalog, calendar.
There you go.
Yes, the women of Whataburger. It's
we're equal here. We'll do half men, half women.
Okay. All right.
We gotta go a little further than that, though. Because we gotta go a little further than that, though.
No, I will not.
So
I know where Dave is
in the case of people at Whataburger and being Texas, you might not even be able to tell the difference between some of the women and the men. So
Dave is talking about people who
I know
are
what he's
mixing and
talking
matching
about.
things, which I won't do.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but let's see. I totally lost my. What were we
were
even
talking about? Will Middlebrook. I was ranting and raving about Will Middlebrook.
Good riddance.
Misselbrook. Yeah.
Screw
whatever. That guy.
Yeah.
Maybe you can take the name with him. Go away.
Yeah. Take your stupid name with you with 2 words in it. All right. Speaking of stuff happening with the team, the offensive coordinator search has continued to go on. Last week we mentioned that Charles London, Shermer, and Ken Zampese had all been interviewed already. This week, actually some fun, interesting names, I thought. They interviewed Eric Studsville, who's the associate head coach and running back coach for Miami. Obviously, with Washington wanting to be a run-heavy team, they're going for a lot of guys with running back coaching experience. He's been a coach for 30 years, and he's been in the NFL for at least 2 decades. So, very experienced run game coordinator for the Dolphins. The one I think fans were starting to go a little gaga for when it got announced was Thomas Brown, who is the assistant to McVay in the Rams. He's the tight ends coach this year, but he's been a running back coach before that. He's been coaching since 2012, but he was mostly in college up until 2020. So kind of a green NFL guy. But I think fans here, he worked for McVay, and everyone's just like, okay, yes, you worked for McVay. That's all I need to see on your resume. We need you here. That kind of, I get it. He's got a hot coaching tree, but maybe this guy might be too green. I don't know. That would be my question about him that I think's interesting.
We just drowned out Dave. I'm curious to see in the last segment. I'm curious what Dave thinks about all this.
About the offensive coordinators?
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah.
Well, whatchamacallit? Thomas Brown is definitely an intriguing coach, especially if he brings a lot of the schemes that McVay had in terms of, what some people call he has layers of deception within his passing scheme that really hides his running game. So it's like every formation he has, it looks like it could be a running game, but in terms of what he does with the complexities of his route schemes and so forth, and his receivers are constantly always open, and I'm not really sure if he runs, I guess would be like his zone run scheme, an inside zone scheme, not really so much an outside scheme of what he runs. So, but when I was going through the whole list, though, I know Ken Zampese, looks like he may end up being the favorite potentially.
Everyone says that because he's here.
Yeah. Well, when I looked at him, obviously he falls from his father Ernie, and he made that Chargers and Cowboys passing game just prolific, and with his input and so forth. He's got a basis for the Air Coryell, which Ken Zampese does too with his time with Norv and Scott Turner and so forth. But the one thing that he does incorporate within a scheme he did out in Cincinnati is because he had a little bit of West Coast scheme with Jay Gruden out there. But the one thing when he took over, that running game really started to kind of go to the next level in terms of how he schemed that in with the current offense already in place. So I could see why he'd be a favor for Ron Rivera. And he's actually probably the most intriguing guy on this list for me because of the total pace. He brings he continue a little bit of what Scott Turner did, and try to incorporate a little bit more of his own particular run style that he had. And I think that would be useful or very helpful for someone like Sam Howell if he is the QB1 going forward. There won't be a whole lot of change. There'll be layers of continuity in that. He'd have to learn a whole new offense, kind of hit the ground running and just kind of go forward. So for as much as I do like the idea of Thomas Brown, and even Charles London with that offense, with that real run heavy offense that they do out there at Atlanta, I think Ken Zampese is probably the smartest of all the options. And Pat Shurmur, go away. I don't want anything to do with Pat Shurmur.
So let me give you one more name that I saw on Twitter just before we started. Apparently, they did put in a request to interview Anthony Lynn, who's with the 49ers right now and is their running backs coach. Obviously, Lynn, former head coach with the Chargers, very good resume, very experienced head coach, offensive coordinator type.
I guess I don't have a huge opinion about most of these names. What would concern me, and I wrote this in a column last week, I think they need to decide what kind of offense do they really want to be. I mean, you guys are saying running team, but it was kind of by default. A big chunk of the year they weren't a good running team. Okay, right. They were doing it because they didn't have any passing game. They had quarterback problems. They do have talent, the receivers. With McLaurin and Dotson for sure. So they have talent there. I would be more concerned if I were Ron Rivera about what kind of system do I want. And sometimes these systems it's just a terminology and play calling thing more than anything. So I don't know if he'd be hung up on Coryell versus this and that more so than how do you want to gain yards? What is the best way, given my talent base, to do that? And will this offensive coordinator be able to tap into what I want? If it's Ernie Zampese, fine. It sounds like from what you're describing, complex system, complex routes. I might lean that way, but again, they don't really have a quarterback for this. I mean, I know you guys want to hear Sam Howell's great and all that, and maybe will be, but at the end of the day, this dude has played one game. This is not John Elway, okay?
No.
So that would be my first thought, and maybe Ron does know this. He just and there'd be no reason to tell us, But that would be my because teams, particularly when you're going into the fourth year of a head coach's tenure, the end is probably near. So
if there's not been any success yet, yeah.
Yeah, right. And so is this just a case of him getting whoever he can? Or does he really have a plan? Because if he doesn't have a plan, it's not going to go well. And so that would be my concern more so than the specifics of whose name it is and everything. It's will this guy mesh with? Do they know what is best for this team?
No.
And can they tailor an offense to it?
I mean, look, I think that's a great point. And I heard somebody, one of the many, many little sports shows I like to listen to, one on 106.7 or 980 or something. Somebody brought this up too with these running back coaches that are all these guys, the names that they're mentioning. The team had its success late in the year when they went to Brian Robinson, when they started becoming much more of a power run team versus, a zone team, because that fit their line better. All these guys, Thomas Brown, Studsville, these are zone run guys. They come from the McVay and Shanahan world where it's, your running game is based off of one cut zone a lot of the time, and it's a lot of gadget plays. And, I'm not against doing that. I actually think that's the better way to go. If I were going to be a head coach building a team, that's what I'd want to do. I wouldn't want to do power running anymore. I think that's kind of out of date for the modern NFL.
Well, I guess that's what I'm talking about, which is what do they want to do?
But what are you built to do too?
Right. It's a better way to say it. What are you built to do? I mean, in newsflash, I was big Brian Robinson supporter. I told you guys that he would be starting in the training camp. I said this, but at the end of the day, he had 3 good games. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to diss the guy, and it's admirable him coming from your shot and all that. But at the end of the day, he gained 5.8 yards per carry in Week 12 against Atlanta, 4.6 against the Giants in Week 13, and then 7.4 against the Giants. Other than that, it was dreck all year. Okay, it did not go well, except for those 3 games. Is he going to improve? Hopefully, but I don't know if this team, to Alex's point, should necessarily be wedded to power run. They did it out of necessity. Are they great at it? No, they're not.
Well, they're not going to be able to do anything anyways unless they get that offense line squared away anyway.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of marshmallows up there as offensive line. Yeah.
And for as unimpressive as Robinson was behind that offense, during the year, only those few games. I mean, I believe he still had the most yards he was in the top 3 or top 5 for most yards after contact. So the guy runs hard. The guy does get positive yard, but when he's being met in the backfield almost every single play, I mean, he's not a hit, bounce it out, run to the outside type running back.
He's a power runner. Yeah, he's a classic NFL power runner. And you're making a good point, Dave. I mean, I like him. He's a solid runner. And he was getting pounded, and all the problems for Washington do come down to the offensive line. On the offensive side, do come down to the horrible offensive line, and nothing's going to work if they don't fix it.
Right? No, that's absolutely going to be an issue.
They need to spend every draft pick on an offensive lineman. Just don't even look at other positions. Just draft 7 of them, and maybe you can find 5 that can play.
Well, honestly, I would say I know they failed at free agency last time, but grab a couple in free agency too, because at least
sign them all. Yeah, bring like 10 guys in. Yeah,
I'm okay with that approach. Honestly, get as many good linemen in here as possible, and figure out what kind of team you want to be. Because you're in year 4, and we still have no clue what you want to do. Scott Turner, for everyone who said he was a genius, I never knew what he wanted to be. There was some semblance of, well, we have Curtis Samuel, and we think we want to do stuff through him for some reason, even though he's not very good. And we're going to pay him a lot of money, even though he stinks. But like, what do they want to be now? And, maybe it's not even worth asking because Ron's probably a lame duck anyway, but they got to get through the year somehow.
Yeah, and to your point with Scott Turner, and I agree with you 100% because even when he went to a full running style offense with Heineke, it was like one game he'd be doing all these gadget trick plays with Curtis Samuels, and and then and then all of a sudden he'll just mix a run with Brian Robinson up the middle here and there, and then you won't see Brian Robinson for almost like a full offensive series or so, and he's back to Curtis Samuels and doing outside zone type schemes with Antonio Gibson. And it's like, let's bring Robinson back in for a little bit. I'm like, dude, you're like doing 3 different run schemes here in one game. It's like, make up your mind. That's what makes Kyle Shanahan so good for how he utilizes Deebo Samuels. He utilizes Deebo Samuels within that scheme he runs. He doesn't go outside the scheme, try to force anything to Deebo Samuels, like what Scott Turner did. I don't know.
You can do multiple run ideas and run like that as long as it's effective. Right. But in his case, it was never effective to try and do that because it would take him 30 seconds to put Deebo Samuel in the backfield on a snap. Everyone knows where the ball's going. Like you can't be predictable like that.
Well, I think the one thing you can say in defense of Scott Turner is he did try different things. His problem was he tried badly. I mean, there were a couple games here and there where it kind of worked for a little bit, but there's a difference between variety and just a mess. And he was just more of a mess, than like having a variety in your play calling within sort of a scheme. And Scott tried to do that, but just didn't do it very well. So it just came out just kind of a jumbled mess. And that was what their offense was all year.
Right.
Yeah, I think we all, and obviously, look, the line was a mess too. There were other issues, the quarterback issues. Yeah.
So the end of this is to say, before Ron just hauls off and hires the next guy who's nice to him and he vibes with in the room or whatever, spend a little bit of time thinking about. Again, maybe he has. I'm not saying he hasn't, but he ought to spend time thinking about what type of offense will make the most use of the talent on the field. Yeah. And then hire a guy that can do that, whoever it is.
Well, I mean, look, for whatever we may think of Rivera, he's not dumb. I'm sure that most of these interviews, this is a huge part of the conversation is you see the pieces we have. What would you do?
I don't know if it is, though. A lot of NFL hiring is just nepotism.
It is. But
look at Scott Turner was beneficiary of that. It's a lot of who you know, and I worked with you, and I don't know how much time I would like to think they put time into this, but I don't know. I'm not convinced that every coach does.
I'm not convinced every coach does, but the fact that he's gone through and we've now had 5 interviews and then 6 lined up here, and a lot of these guys are not in his little social circle, at least not directly. I do think that helps. So maybe he is getting an outside scouting perspective a little bit from some of these interviews he's doing. I'd hope he is. It would be a waste of his time if he's not. But maybe he likes to waste time. I don't know.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, is this offensive coordinator going to be allowed to bring in assistant coaches that he wants?
And that's a great point, which is why I think it's going to ultimately be Ken Zampese, because everything's already in place.
I don't mean to sound sexist here, but I'm just blunt, so I'm just going to ask. I don't know where the running backs coach, the woman, I can't remember her name. What is it?
Jennifer King.
Yeah. What does she know about NFL running backs? I'm not trying to say a woman can't do it. Don't misunderstand me, but I'm just wondering. She's not played NFL football.
No, she played in the women's equivalent.
What qualifies her to be an NFL coach? Maybe she's great. I'm not saying she's not, but I don't really get it. It seems like Ron, the reason I'm saying this, it seems like Ron is a lot of times very focused on making statements like this.
Whereas he's definitely got a bit of an optics thing.
He does. Where I would, if it were me, pay zero attention to optics and just find the right people. And I don't know if he's really one to do that.
Well, I think Jennifer King also, she grew up around the game, in the game. I mean, she's not, I mean, at least for, to kind of her defense a bit, she's been around the game her entire life. She played high school football, I believe, and then she had the women's league. She was always around the game. So
But
I mean,
like,
she
what level is
has,
that women's league at, though? You know?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
There's only two women's leagues. There's the Serious League, which she was in, and then there was the Lingerie League, which
I
she
mean,
was not.
Yeah.
so I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to be sexist, so just stop, everybody out there. But my point is, sometimes I think Ron is focused on the wrong things.
I mean, she's
Right.
been coaching now for 4 years, so it's not like she. I think she's serious about the job, and she, as a player at least, I looked it up. She played from 2006 to 2019 semi-professional women's football. So that is what it is. You can say it doesn't count because it's not the NFL, but we don't let women play in the NFL.
I do say it doesn't count
Yeah.
because it's not the NFL.
Yeah, but if a woman wanted to play football, that's her option.
Right.
I get it. All I'm saying is, does Ron really want to win, or does he want to make Ron has made a bunch of statements. It's not just
he
her.
has.
And again, to be clear, I'm not saying women can't do it. I'm just questioning Ron's motivation. Ron's made a point of like wasting draft picks on international signees that everybody knew weren't going to make it. And he's hired coaches to be the first this and the first that. I kind of wonder.
Well,
I mean, it's a fair question. There's nothing wrong with asking that, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with questioning her qualifications and so forth. I mean, it's like question anybody's qualifications. I mean, look at Jim Zorn when he became an offensive coordinator into a freaking head coach in a matter of like 24 hours. He wasn't qualified to be a head coach in any league.
No, he was
Right.
unqualified.
No.
Right. So it's like, I mean, if anyone wants to get sensitive over you asking that, they just need to grow up and they need to put their head back in the sand.
Well, I also utterly
it's a legitimate question because we're all not really truly familiar with her, with her path and where she's been, what exactly she's done, because it's not like Ron really kind of introduced her entire history and background. It was just like, hey, look, we just hired a female full time on our staff. Great, wonderful. It's like, and me, I'm just thinking, it's like, well, everyone's all this pomp and circumstance. It's like, oh, this is wonderful, first female. I'm like, I mean, can I at least have a stretch of her accolades, where she's been, what she's done? I'd like to get to know her. I want to know what she brings and what her history is. I couldn't care less.
See, I
couldn't care less.
Me, I'd actually dug into that, so I think she actually is a great hire, and because
see, a lot of my information I had gotten from you.
She will very likely, if anyone does it, she will probably be the first woman offensive coordinator in the NFL. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but she's on that track to being that person.
You were one of the few where I got some of that information from, because I don't think you wrote an article, but I think you did a Twitter thread on her at one point or something like that.
Because me, I'll research people and find out what they've done. She was a quarterback. She was a wide receiver.
I mean, Stan Van Gundy coached the New York Knicks for a long time, okay? Mm-hmm. Stan Van Gundy looks like he belongs in a Wendy's commercial, not coaching an NBA basketball team.
Right.
You don't always have to fit the mold to understand the game, and this may be her. And I didn't really mean to start like a women in coaching thing. All my point is I question Ron's motivations sometimes, because I do think that he's more concerned sometimes with the optics.
No, I think there is definitely that aspect. I'm not going to disagree. I would rather hire a woman than hire Norv Turner's son, who's not qualified to be an offensive coordinator.
Well, on the other hand,
just there because his father was a coach.
On the other hand, Ron has worked with Scott in a prior setting in Carolina, so it wasn't totally out of the blue to bring Scott Turner in, and that was a guy he trusted. We could look at Carolina's results and go, it didn't really work very well. And
she was in Carolina with him.
What's that?
She was in Carolina with them.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it wasn't Scott Turner as OC wasn't a huge surprise, and it kind of fit the vibe.
Yeah.
So maybe he got into the NFL because of his last name, but I would argue he didn't get the Washington gig because of his last name because he already knew Ron from, years ago.
I mean, that's fair, but I don't think if his father wasn't Norv Turner, he would not have gotten in.
Well, there's a slew of them. The Schottenheimer's kid, there's a billion of them.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Half the people in the NFL have that. This is what I was talking about earlier. NFL's all about nepotism.
Right.
I would guarantee you there's like an amazing high school coach in like the middle of like Utah somewhere who can probably outcoach everybody in the NFL, but he's never going to get the chance because he's not connected. The NFL doesn't necessarily have the best coaches; they have the best connected coaches.
Of course. I mean, that's true about every occupation that exists.
But particularly the NFL, though. The NFL in particular is very, very focused on relationships.
Sports in particular is like that. Look at the idiots who are baseball coaches. Most of them can barely string a sentence together. They're all and now with no DH or DH being universal, they're all glorified pitch counters. Like they don't have any strategy to being.
Well, I don't think it's nearly that simple, to be honest. There's a lot of strategy, Alex, but
you just
don't know it because you're not a baseball fan. There's a lot of strategy in baseball.
I do know it. I'm being facetious a little bit. Soccer coaches too, by the way. No, like you just stand there and like in a funny jacket.
You just stand there and with your arms folded and yeah.
You only can make 3-4 substitutions. Nothing really going on.
I think legitimately I could coach a World Cup soccer team if you give me the right team. And I don't even want to watch the game. I'd probably play on my iPad or something.
You would go find a hot dog vendor. That's what you would
I can't eat hot dogs anymore, Alex. I can't do
okay.
That.
You would go find.
I'd go find the water vendor.
The water vendor. Yeah. Maybe you get wild, find a soda guy.
Maybe I could just watch a movie.
It's about 90 minutes.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we want to talk about? You did that. We were talking about Ron for a while there. You did mention there was that article on the Hog site that we have about Ron's winning percentage.
This. I know we're out of time here because we partially because I babbled on and on and on.
Yeah, but yeah, we kind of went off on a rant.
Yeah, we went off on a tangent. But so I did want to bring this up. So I did write a column that, of course, now my internet is locking up. Thanks, internet. Appreciate it. Okay, here we go. So this is called "How Does Ron Rivera Stack Up Against Prior Washington Coaches?" And I didn't go too in depth because I wrote this kind of in one night. And in the past, when I've done these things, it's gone totally off the rails and like dipped into like statistical analysis and everything. Mm-hmm. But what I was curious about is we've seen enough of Ron Rivera now to have a representative sample of his work. We've seen him for 3 years. How does he compare? Well, what I found out is if you go all the way back to Norv Turner, the first years of Little Danny's tenure as emperor.
The Dan-tatorship?
Yeah, the Dan-tatorship as dictator. Eliminating the guys who are the interim coaches. We have Ron, Jay Gruden, Mike Shanahan, Jim Zorn, Joe Gibbs, Steve Spurrier, Marty Schottenheimer, Norv Turner. Norv Turner got fired there in Little Danny's first year, as we know.
Yep.
Schottenheimer lasted a year. Spurrier lasted 2. Jim Zorn lasted 2. So the guys who lasted more than 2 years, Ron Rivera, Jay Gruden, Mike Shanahan, Joe Gibbs.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievably, all of them in year 3 were within 1 win of each other. Ron Rivera is 22, 27, and 1. Jay Gruden was 21, 26, and 1. Mike Shanahan, 21 and 27. Joe Gibbs, 21 and 27 at the end of year 3. They all had about the same results. Not one of them ended up over a 500 winning percentage. Only one who won a playoff game was Joe Gibbs. All of them were 0-1 in the playoffs, except Gibbs, who was 1-2 total.
Right.
And then again, Zorn and Spurrier both were terrible. Throw them out. So what you see here is consistency of mediocrity, which an unbelievable consistency. The fact that all these guys had almost the exact same record is just unfathomable. And then you look at, I'm not going to read all this, but I also published the rankings for the points scored and points allowed for all these coaches for all their years. And there's a lot of mediocrity in there. And it really and truly, the only one year since 99 that the teams that were good on both sides of the ball, Did you guys read this? I was going to have you guess, but if you read it, you already know.
No, just have us guess.
Okay. 1 year the team was ranked in the top 10 on both sides of the ball. What year was it?
On both sides of the ball.
Yep. And there were a lot of years where you're thinking, there's a lot of years where they were decent in offense, bad on defense, etc.
Right.
There was only 1 year they put it all together.
Yeah, because like Jay Gruden's teams were good on offense and bad on defense each time.
Right.
I'm gonna have to guess it was. I'm gonna guess it was one of the Gibbs years. It's got to be the one where they made the playoffs and got to the second round.
Dave?
I can't remember what season that was off the top of my head.
You clearly didn't read my column.
No, I'm looking at it now. When I'm actually looking at it, I don't even see it when I'm looking at it.
It's a bit of a fine. It's a bit of Where's Waldo.
Yeah, it is, because when I'm looking at it.
Okay, Dave, check out the Jay Gruden era.
Okay, I see.
Now check out the
like
second
year two.
Year two.
There, you know what? I flipped my phone. I see it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because the way
year 2 of the Jay Gruden era, which was 2015,
they were
was
ranked
the year they
10th
went
on each category.
They went 9-7 and went
also,
to the playoffs.
fun fact: the year we started this podcast.
It was. Yeah. That was the most consistent across the board team in the Dan Snyder era.
Defense being that good.
They were ranked 10 in points allowed. Joe Gibbs, for the most part, had bad offenses. Ranked 31st in the league in points scored, 31st, 13th, 20th, and 18th. He had better defenses, ranked 5th, 9th, 27th, and 11th. Yeah. One more trivia thing here.
Those Greg Williams defenses, man, I miss those.
Oh, they were fun. They were fun to watch. What? And Dave, you probably have this right in front of you, so you can't guess. But Alex, you can guess this. What year were they best on offense and were they best on defense?
Individually?
Yes, individually. Start with offense first. What year were they score the most points?
All right, so I'm going to say that was probably that same year that you're talking about, the Jay Gruden 9-7 season.
No.
And no? Is it the RG3?
Because it's either that or RG3. 99, second in the NFL.
Oh, with Brad Johnson at the helm.
Brad Johnson, yep. Now, the number 2 is Mike Shanahan in the RG3 year, 2012. Okay. They were number 4. Other than that, their Redskin offenses and now Washington's offense have been consistently awful, terrible.
Yeah.
Yep. In the 20s for the most part.
Those Kirk Cousins ones, at least, they put up yards more than points. That was their thing.
Yeah.
Now, points on defense, points allowed on defense.
All right, so this is where I'm going to say it was probably Schottenheimer?
Nope.
No? Because Schottenheimer always had good defense.
Ron Rivera, 2020.
I don't like to count that year, though. I know it counts, but I don't like to count it.
Why don't you
the Schottenheimer year?
Because we played like 4 third-string quarterbacks. We had the weakest schedule in the league.
I mean, numbers are numbers, though.
I know.
Well, see, this is where if I'd had more time to write this, I would have really delved into that kind of stuff and normalized the data somehow. But the answer to the trivia question is Ron Rivera's 2020 was 4th in the NFL in points allowed.
See, the one thing I'm surprised at, though, was Steve Spurrier's first year, he was 5th. Their defense was 5th.
Somehow.
I had no idea. That was weird.
And
unfortunately, the offense
was
so terrible. Yeah, offense was god awful. So
yeah, but the best uniforms they ever had, those spear helmets that they wore all year. That was a good look.
So that one that's right there.
Yeah. I got one behind me somewhere.
We're out of time, so I don't want to drone on. I read the column, but I guess the overall takeaway from this, and I didn't really have a perspective when I was writing this. Let's see how it comes out, and the perspective. What I learned from this is it's a stunning amount of mediocrity, mediocre to bad. And this comes back to the sort of maybe the theme of the entire podcast. You have the entire website, which is, from my perspective at least, is leadership starts from the top. You're never going to have a good team if you don't have a solid owner and solid front office structure. It will never work. And this column demonstrates it better than anything you'll ever see.
Yeah.
And notice the only two 500 teams here, Norv Turner and Marty Schottenheimer, which is still bleeding over from the prior regime.
Yep. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. All right, that should do it for this week. We will talk to you all next week as we talk about that super exciting Pro Bowl that's going to be happening.
So I will go over Deron Payne next week, maybe.
Yeah, we'll talk Deron Payne.
Yeah,
I could figure out how Washington could re-sign him. So we'll do that.
And if you send us, an interesting tweet question, maybe we'll ask it. I don't know. I'd have to actually pay attention.
Ask us about, I don't know, what you saw in Macy's the other day. We'll comment on it.
We're not going to do Ask Us Anything. Ask us almost anything.
No, ask us literally absolutely anything.
Well, there's certain things you just won't answer, but
you don't have to answer. You can ask it.
That's true.
We can always say no.
Yes. If it's something that's classified, we're keeping it classified.
Call our Hogseye hotline. We'll put you on there.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Take it easy.
Do we have a hotline?
No, we don't have a hotline.